Hello, listeners, and welcome to the 53rd episode of the Heresy Accountability Buddies podcast. My name is Jacob, and on this episode, I'm joined by.
Duncan.
Jamie.
Jack.
John.
And that's about how it goes on most episodes. We've got a great show lined up for everybody today, and we are glad to have you with us. Live listeners, episode 53 is on track to be a special one. We will be completing our giveaway that is courtesy of Flying Phoenix Games and Elric's Hobbies. Once again, big shout to both of them for sponsoring the giveaway and to Elric's Hobbies and the code Heresy BBS, I believe it is, or Heresy ABB.
The code
Heresy
is Heresy
ABB. Yeah.
Yes.
For percentage off your order with Elric's. Huge shout to them for sponsoring the show. We've got a few news announcements and things to get into before the giveaway, but before we get to that, we've got our regularly scheduled hobby progress. John, you want to kick us off?
Sure, yeah. Work's starting to kind of flare up again. I'll be gone a little bit next week, or week after next. Leading into Warzone Houston, but trying to get everything done for Warzone Houston. I managed to lay out all of the armor plates that I've been working on for all my nights. I broke off all the armor plates on the nights that I took to Texas Open, and I managed to go through and silver panel line using Gundam marker all of the, not the shoulder armor, but there's kind of like a sub armor that's on some of the arms. There's shin pads on all of the armigers and all of the lancers, and the top armor on all the armigers and the lancers. The only thing I've got left at this point to trim up is I want to do a little bit of touch up on the armigers because some of them I couldn't break off because of how they glue. They really like lock in. The front plate kind of locks into the thing and it holds the top carapace on. I've got that to touch up. I've got these shin plates to finish that I'm holding up right now for the few loyal watchers we've got, and then I've got the shoulder armor from the actual Night Knights to finish up. And then I'll be ready for Warzone Houston. Glued everything together. I don't think I'm going to get everything withered by that time, but I think I'm actually going to get it all at least assembled. So hopefully should be on track to get all this stuff finished in the next couple of weeks. Oh, and then obviously I've got to get all my handlebars that I got bent mounted onto the Knight chassis as well. Looking full steam ahead for me. I will pass it on to, let's do Duncan.
So my hobby was I got worked like a ready mule my last week of work. Much like I have been the past month, I got zero hobby work done. Um, that's not to say I didn't have some time to veg out and play video games or anything, but I literally did no hobby at all. I just didn't have time, to be honest. Um, I will kick it over to Jamie.
So, I did get worked like a rented mule as well, but I did hobby. Um, I painted as we're calling it, I guess, in private channels, the most expensive rhino ever made, known to mankind. Finished painting that up. And I've been working today on a Whirlwind Scorpius, and then started building the 6 Predators and 4 Sarkarians, I guess. So, I mean, I've been busy. The kids went out of town with the wife, so yay, hobby time. Um, but my hobby time is pretty much limited, just maybe 2 days a week right now because I'm coaching soccer and I've got other stuff at night when I come home. So, that is mine, and I will hand it off to Jack.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Um, with the beginning of the new month and our friends over at RFI releasing their new paint challenge, which is vehicles, I decided now would be a good time to get a lot of vehicles that I had out to painted. So I base coated and started the blues on a Cestus assault ram. I'm doing a second Cestus assault ram as Destroyer Squad, I have a Thunderhawk, a Sokar Stormbird, a Dreadclaw, a Dreadnought Drop Pod, and a Brass Scorpion, all entered into their contest. And everything except for the Brass Scorpion has had the base colors put on. And then moving on to the highlights and all that good stuff. After that, I'll start plucking out details. So my plan is probably to have at least the Thunderhawk probably 90% done, probably by tomorrow night. Sokar probably 90% by Tuesday night. Basically, they should all be in the 90 percentile by the end of this coming week is the plan. And I'm saying this out loud to hold myself accountable to it. After that, see here, I had some decals ordered for the Imperial Fist because they're kind of ground to a stop now, waiting on decals. And then October, my plan is to work on Dorn, and probably cry a lot. Yeah, cry a lot. And then see what else have I done? Listen to a lot of Jimmy Buffett crying into a margarita. There's been that. Jacob, what about you?
I haven't had too much hobby progress to report for myself. Heresy's kind of still on pause for me, but overall, I'm very, very excited after having edited up the last few episodes in order to be here with everybody. So, do we have any other event shouts or anything before we start getting to our news items?
I've got a quick one. So with Warzone Houston coming up, I'm going to go ahead and announce here that anyone that shows up to that event, or probably the next event, depending on how many I get to make, as a lot of y'all know, I've been using the Daiso shipping containers. They're a little bit bigger than an index card. That are used for terrain, and I've been picking them up, a lot of them, and kind of giving them away for prizes and things. But what I'm going to do from now on is whenever I use those as prize support for an event, I'm going to have the Accountability Buddies logo spray painted on the side. There's going to be some lettering up, and on the inside is going to be a code leading to the podcast, as well as some of our other links. And so for anyone that comes to events now, you'll be able to pick up an event exclusive Accountability Buddies terrain shipping container that you can open up and use as a dice container or in your games. Completely up to what you want to do with it.
I really like the look of those, by the way, John.
Thank you. Yeah, my wife's going to be cutting out stencils so I can go through and airbrush the helmet logo on all of them, and then we're designing the stuff to go on the inside this week too.
Very cool. All right. I think we also had a couple of news items as far as previews and new items up for sale. Is that about right?
There were previews?
There were previews.
Previews of what?
Previews of honestly something that I was, even though I hoped it would be the case, I was still ultimately very surprised about it. And that would be Fulgrim. I was not expecting to see that after Magnus and Mortarion were done in plastic, and Angron as well. I definitely anticipated that Fulgrim, or Snake Fulgrim, was going to end up being a plastic kit, was going to have full crossover 40k rules, and it seems that at least at this time, there's no plan for him to have any 40k rules. He is a Heresy exclusive model. So I'll be keeping an ear to the ground to try to figure out what those rules look like. But that's certainly very interesting.
The Fulgrim Ascendant model is freaking beautiful.
It is.
It's I want it. I don't have Emperor's Children, but I want to paint it.
So the other day, Jack and I were discussing that, and we were talking about how he doesn't have much motivation to do a heresy army or a traitor army right now.
Yeah, no motivation to do a heresy army. You're right.
Yeah, no motivation to do a heresy army, but to do a traitor army. And we were talking about purple and you know doing up Fulgrim, and Jack started to get a little bit of a heresy job there going on.
It was your
So I know it was my fault. I fully admit this, and I'm proud of it too.
But yeah, that
think
Fulgrim-
As
Fulgrim tempting
expected,
people into
and
Fulgrim, but-
just as Fulgrim would have wanted, getting people hard for heresy.
that is.
I will say that model is going to be an absolute beast to transport.
Oh yeah, that's a given.
Those wings are just screaming, "I'm gonna break."
Is it gonna be any worse than Sanguinius on his whole entire little base, flying up with a spear, yelling?
No, it'll be worse.
I think
worse.
it'll be worse actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I made the joke that all those extra flesh tubes on his back are for when you break the wings off and you have to re-glue them every time.
All I can say is if you're gonna buy it and build it and paint it, magnets are gonna be your friend.
Magnets, how do they work?
I don't know personally. I'm just gonna assume it's through strange wizardly magic.
And then after that specific preview, we also got, I believe, our first infantry drop for Heresy in a moment, which was the definitely not Mark II, but in fact Mark III kit. A lot of guys sort of strike on the same stance or same pose as Mark VI, which has left a couple people nonplussed. But overall, hopefully a nicer kit to put together than what the Mark III kit has been this far. I know a couple people have really experienced some frustration with, like, why is the backpack 2 pieces?
It's me. I'm the one who's got frustrations like that. But yes, I absolutely agree.
Well, if you remember, the original Mark III backpack was 2 pieces anyway.
Yep.
So
It was.
The exhausts are a little weird. Like they don't look like they're that tapered like the old Mark IIIs, but it is what it is.
I'm excited to
Yeah,
have it. Like, I'm happy.
Yeah, we did a live react to that, and I think we all kind of said that it was some of the armor choices are a little weird. It's almost like it's kind of 2 and it's kind of 3.
Yeah.
I almost wish they would have rather just wholeheartedly committed to saying, hey, these are, and maybe putting some more embellishments on and just making them Mark II. The elbow pads are really weird. The knee pads are kind of squircles instead of a square or a circle. There's a bunch of just odd design choices all around in the thing. Especially some of the wrists look almost broken in some of the poses. Whether that's the pre-production models that they decided to glue together or what. But I guess we'll find out when they come out.
Personally, I'm not really sold on their elbow pads or their elbow. I don't even know what they can be called. Probably elbow pads. Let's just go with that.
Joints.
They seem weird. Yeah, they seem weird to me.
That circle with the huge pad on it.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on that. I'm also, to be honest, not quite sold with the flare out on the bottom of the feet or the changing of the knee pad. But that's all, just complaining. It's not sitting there and saying, yeah, I like it or I don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw it to the ground and curse anyone who bothers to build them and use them in their army. It's just something that I'm not going to choose to run as much of in my pet force.
Agreed. I've got lots of Mark III, so I'll roll with that.
Yeah, there's a couple local guys that love them so much that they're willing to sell their old Mark IIIs to me. So
Yeah, I've seen tons of them all line already that are for sale.
Yep.
I will say I actually like that the pickle helmet. I kind of like that.
And the variations are really cool too. They're kind of subtle, but very noticeable.
Yep. I have no real complaints on that part at all.
I wonder if the pickle helmet is like the spike is like an add-on, or is it just part of each head?
I'm going to guess part of each head.
The weirdest part is the reuse of the command sprue. I thought that was kind of a failing on. I don't want to say, I guess failing is a harsh word, but kind of true. But it seems that it was kind of a half measure to make a whole new kit and then just reuse that same command upgrade sprue with the Vox and the Corsair and things like that.
Yeah, I'm. Like I said, no real complaints on it. I mean, just aesthetics, but we all have different aesthetic likes and dislikes. We'll see. Maybe they'll put them in jump packs soon. That'd be nice.
And then past that, our big news was the Arvis Lighter up for pre-sale at a whopping 132 United States dollar dues.
Yeah. I don't have anything that can use the Arvis Lighter, so.
My militia use a different plane from a different company for my short buses, so I didn't have to worry about that thing coming back. I would have liked if it was plastic and cheaper. It would have been really cool for terrain projects and putting on Necromunda boards and putting on ZM boards and everything, but it's kind of steep for that.
Yeah.
Just
So
to
Rhino.
give a little context around this, the Storm Raiden is 115 United States dollars. That is a plastic model, but I can only assume significantly larger and probably less likely to make you cry over the course of construction than what the Arvis Lighter is likely to.
And I think this new Arvis, from what I've heard, it looks like it was the scaled up model from the is it Aeronautical Imperialis or whatever. They took the CAD from that and scaled it up, but it doesn't come with any weapons. Whereas the old one, you had the option of was a tri-laser and a stubber in the back.
Yeah, there was like a boarding gun was like a las gun, and then there was a small mount next to the cockpit as well that was like a las cannon or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems odd if they dropped all weapon options from it. I know they dropped the majority of the weapon upgrades from the militia list and the Solar Ox lists.
Yeah.
I don't dislike the look of it. I don't at all dislike the look of it. It's definitely iconic in the way its style is. I just never understood why they never put even like a front-facing multi-laser or something on it. That part always just confused me.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be a Rhino, but I would figure it at least have something for self-defense or something like that.
Yeah, even like just a broadcast laser tuned really, really high for punching someone in the nose with it. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's a good sculpt. I know people that have the old version of it have said the back door, there was a lot of issues with that, and this new one apparently has fixed, looks like it has fixed that, so.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we've ended up, dare I say, monkeys pawing our way into the Arvis being back in production, but that's where we're at.
One wonderful thing I have a curiosity about: had they announced the Dorito before, or only on Hova?
This is new too.
Well, it was a Dreadnought listed on the roadmap, as well as Troop.
Yeah, so they said upcoming Dreadnought and upcoming Troop, and then the artwork right before that was of a Dorito and the Mark III Marine. So everyone kind of put two and two together. But this is the first official release of it. I like that it comes with different bodies, so you can add in the different loyalties, allegiances, like you can with the Contemptor. I'm curious about the weapon upgrades. They only showed 2 of the possible 3. So it'll be interesting if you get all of it in the box, or if they're going to split it into 3 or 4, 2 or 3 different boxes, kind of like they did with Leviathan, or just sell you extra weapon sprues.
Well, there's 2 more. There's the Volkites and the las cannons.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, and so I'm also going to be curious to see how they mount the weapons, because in the past that was a not easy to magnetize kit because of the way it was built. I just glued mine together and bought extras.
I magnetized.
More guns.
It's the same thing I did. I just magnetized it as it was, or bought it and glued it and ignored magnets.
Yeah, I magnetized the top part of it.
Magnetize everything.
Yes, Jack, but you're special like that.
I'm very special. I'm also
Yeah.
excited about this box set. That's going to get more of my money than what I'm happy about. 'Cause
I am looking forward to giving Games Workshop more of my money. Of course. I mean, 30 dudes, another Land Raider, and a Dorito. Uh, if that sticks to right around $200, yeah, I'm sold. I'll buy at least 2 of those.
I think there's a weapon sprue too as well.
Yeah, at least one weapon sprue of the special weapons, so
Yeah.
like Volkite, Chargers, Flamers, Meltas, etc. Yeah,
I hope it
I'm
has
sold no matter what.
the ramp for the Land Raider in there. This is not the Proteus, but the Proteus carrier, so you get a front ramp. Because I need
I hope
to
so.
the ramp.
It's the same kit. If you haven't built the new one, they're both in the box.
Is it all on the same sprue, or is it a separate sprue?
Yes, it's same sprue.
Okay, good then.
It's
See if you can
like
find a way to pick up the extra extension sprue and you can get a Spartan out of it.
Yep.
I have 2 sitting around here someplace.
Of the sprues or spare Spartans that you haven't built yet.
Yes.
Well done, well done.
yeah, it's literally the same kit as the Spartan with like the center section of this wall sprue and the front ramps are on one for the Land Raider, and then on the Spartan there's it's an extra 2 sprues
Okay.
for the big stuff. But it's literally like I'd say what 3/4 of the same kit.
Sounds about right.
Out of the new plastics, I've done the Kratos, and I just did the Leviathan. Dreadnought. Thought they were both fantastic.
As I've said, like I've built a lot of the plastics, and they're great kits, but they're like overly complicated to be overly complicated.
It's GW. Did you really expect anything different?
No, I don't. But
I
it's
thought-
just kind of funny.
I thought the Kratos was fine. The Leviathan had extra doodads in the legs just to have,
Yeah.
I guess, extra doodads in the leg. It was kind of weird.
Well, Lancer does that too. It's got extra shoulder rim parts for the other versions of the Cerastus Knight. They don't tell you what to do with it. They just throw them in the sprue because you'll use them in a kit later.
Well, with those news items out of the way, do we have any more before we continue on to our next segment?
I've been looking at some of the stuff that's been coming out of Nova since it's going on this weekend. There's been obviously nothing more heresy-wise that I want to talk about. I will say that I have seen a lot of people really stepping up the paint game that has been in pictures that have been shared online. I saw a absolutely gorgeous Alpha Legion army that I cannot find again because it's already gone somewhere in my feed, but it looked beautiful. Right, scales were individually done. Everything looked awesome. I don't know whose it was. I have no way of attributing it to anybody or anything, but it looked amazing. So whoever that was, kudos to you.
An excellent show. Super cool to see all the new armies that tend to come out, dare I say, in parade garb for events like that. And before we head on to our primary headline for this episode, which is going to be the review for the Dark Mechanicum PDF, going a little more in depth than what we did on the last show, I did want to go ahead and take this time to turn the floor over to Duncan, who has been gracious enough to put the work into aggregating all of our responses on our various social feeds. Let's go ahead and get our giveaway going. Duncan, if you would.
Oh, goodness gracious me. So, as everyone here who's watching and hopefully listening knows, we have done, through Flying Phoenix, a copy of the Age of Darkness box set complete, and through our hobbies, a set of the bases. Multiple entries were allowed, and it was one across each of the various social media platforms. We have had a total of 81 entries, And I'm going to see if I can figure out how to properly stream that part, because here we go. This will be nice. Let's see if it works. There we go. Hopefully everyone should be able to see that now.
I cannot.
Can you now?
No.
Well,
You gotta click
I
watch
can.
stream.
You have to click. You have to.
Yeah,
click on
if
watch
you click
stream.
watch stream, it'll grab it.
Oh,
They
there
have
it is.
those
Okay.
numbered.
I blew up Duncan. So there we go.
all right.
It's now maximized
So-
on the screen.
All right, so these are the total of the 81 total entries. They are randomized. They all come from this list here, which includes entries from YouTube, Instagram, Discord, our Facebook page, and various other bits and pieces, including yeah, no, actually, it just includes those. So, yeah, there we go. Took these names that were all from the various locations, stuck them into a list randomizer to give us the total of 81 names. And here's the random number generator. Lower limit 1, upper limit 81. I'm assuming everyone can see that.
Sure can, yes.
Cool. It's ready to generate. I'm going to say, Jack, tell me when to hit the button to randomly generate it.
3, 2, 1, go. 70.
Number 70. Number 70 on this list comes out to Bryce Piercy.
All right, we will follow up from this episode with Bryce. It looks like that episode may have come in through our main page on Facebook. We will be getting a hold of Bryce and figuring out how we can best get his prize to him. Once again, that was an Age of Darkness box provided by the lovely Flying Phoenix Games, and a set of resin bases from, I believe, Elric's Hobbies. Very, very cool. Glad to be able to give that away. And Brian, if you're out there listening, and for whatever reason we have not gotten with you as of yet, please make a point to reach out to us with the show. We'll take good care of you.
Bryce.
From there, yes. Yes, my apologies.
We'll reach out to him.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's freaking out right now.
Very cool. That's awesome. So it sounds like he's listening live with us from the sounds of things.
Yeah, one of the guys posted it in the Lone Star Legion. Everyone's saying congrats. Nice.
Wonderful. And while we're here, sort of in this moment of celebration, I'd like to make sure that I let listeners know that if you like listening to our show live on Sunday nights, we do have that as a Patreon benefit. I believe we've got that at one of our tiers, and several up from there. We've also got some exclusive merch that's out there, as well as opportunities to preview what's coming for the channel with regard to merch, future episodes, and more. So there's that plug, and with that said, let's go ahead and roll into this exemplary battle PDF. The whole thing centers around these corrupted engines. These corrupted engines can either be taken as one of your choices when you take a Praevian. So if a Praevian normally says you can take up to 3 units, then instead he would allow you to take 2 and one of these. He's not able to join them, unfortunately, but regardless, or past that, that still leaves the fact that Trader Mechanicum lists can take these sort of as they will in their various appropriate slots. They do come with a new unit type, which is Corrupted Engine. Gives Fear 1 or stacks another point of Fear onto any they may have had already. They do get the Corrupted subtype as far as anything that affects corrupted units can affect them. They are considered to pass Fear, Regroup, and can never fail morale tests, but typically when they fail one of those, they take D3 mortal wounds instead. So if you were on our Terminator episode and you heard where I really talked about some things that I enjoyed out of Gal Vorbak, Those are very similar here, where they just don't offer any ability to lose ground. And past that, we end up with any hits coming in from force or psychic focus weapons gain instant death. Most of these units are not subject to instant death because they have like the Knight or the Dreadnought type. But in the case of Dreadnoughts, you will still, therefore, every time you fail a save, you'll take those D3 wounds. And it further specifies that with the Corrupted Engine subtype. Finally, you cannot be joined by units that don't have Corrupted Engine. No surprise. We've got one unique Cyberthurgic Arcana, it looks like. Yeah. Anima Malefica. It comes with a right and a weapon. I believe that's the template for all Cyberthurgy now. The weapon is an 18-inch, Strength 5, AP 3, Assault 3, Blind, Deflagrate, and Cyberthurgic Focus. And the right says that instead of making a shooting attack, your Cyberthurgist may instead select a single unit within 12 inches that is corrupted, and then apply one of the following. One of those is immediately move your initiative characteristic toward the nearest enemy unit. If you have never played with like a speed booster in other game systems, I know the first time Games Workshop really presented something like this was at the release of 8th edition, where Chaos could do the same thing. They could cast, I believe it was Warp Time, and move a unit out of sequence. That was an extremely potent power. You can also elect to improve the invulnerable save by 1 to a maximum of 3 up. So if you take multiple Cyberthurgists and all of them take Anima Malefica, you can actually stack some of these bonuses, which is really, really strong. And further, all models in the unit, as a third option, all models in the unit get +1 weapon skill and +1 initiative until the end of the assault phase. Not going to help you on the opponent's turn, but if you're looking at some combats that are going to be a little dicey, especially as we talk like the Blood Slaughterers that come up later, the ability to push those up to weapons 6 can really help you break some otherwise challenging stalemates that you might be running headlong into. Do keep in mind, if you choose to make a Cyberthurgy check before using the power, then 2 different options can be applied. So just with 2 Cyberthurgy checks, you can really juice a unit by giving it one of the movement kicks, bumping its invulnerable save twice to a 3 up, and then still giving +1 weapon skill and +1 initiative. You can really, really juice some of these units up. We do also have 2 Etheric Dominions that are present. The first is Heedless Slaughter. You must charge if you are within 8 inches of an enemy unit. If multiple are eligible, you choose. So you can't choose if you have 2 within 8 and one that's like 9 inches out. You can't pick the guy who's 9 inches out. But if you have one unit that's 3 inches away and another that's 5 inches away, you can opt to charge the further away unit. They don't force you to charge the closest thing. That's pretty important here. Additionally, you get +1 to any charge rolls and +1 to see if you win combat in the assault phase, as well as +1 to your sweeping advance rolls. Pretty alright. But it does force your hand, so just be aware if you're going to bring something within 8 inches, or if you're worried that it'll bring you within 8 inches, because if you come up on a unit and they choose the advance reaction in the movement phase, they can push their initiative value closer to you. So if you came within 12 and they advance onto your position, they're now within 8 and they can force you to charge them. So be aware of that so that you don't get caught out by it. The other is Malevolent Artifice. Malevolent Artifice, I believe, is only on the...
Decimator.
Is it the Decimator?
Yep, everything.
And
ones are on
he
the other.
says reroll failed armor saves against any wounds at a strength lower than his toughness. Um, does not work on cover or invulnerable saves. Obviously, does not work on damage mitigation rolls. Still very, very strong. He is tough 7, so that unfortunately won't help him against wounds from plasma. But basically, anything smaller than an autocannon or a plasma gun, also known as most things he would get an invulnerable or get an armor save against in the first place, he will get to actually reroll that armor save. And conditionally, that can make him extremely durable. And then we had one of John's more favorite selections with regard to the Khitan. 420 points, move 14, weapons 6. Getting weapons 6 up front is a huge deal. Ballistics 3, but the ballistic skill, in my opinion, doesn't really matter because of the volume of shots that weapon generates. Strength 9 as native, front 13, side and rear 12, initiative 4, 4 attacks, 8 hull points. He's got an arm-mounted Gatling cannon and the Cleaver of Slaughter. He's also got flank speed, which, as John indicated, is common to the Cerastus pattern knights. And it will let you elect to give up your shooting and run as part of your movement, and still let you charge afterwards. So even though this guy's move 14, you can dial that up to like move 18 and still charge. And I think, unfortunately, it doesn't alter your actual movement characteristic, so it won't give you... is it at 15 only when you get the +3 to charge, or does it come in before then?
I think it's the 15 only.
Okay, so it won't get you all the way to the +3 to charge, but you do have that Heedless Slaughter that's going to give you +1 inch to charge anyway. You've got Hammer of Wrath 4, so I-10, you can throw a couple Strength 9 hits down. If you're really worried about not being able to successfully batter through like a Land Raider or a Rhino, that can help. But otherwise, because Hammer of Wrath is AP dash, I find, as I indicated in the Assault Marine episode, you spend more time rolling for the sake of it rather than actually getting any advantage out of it. He does have a D3 of Rampage, so anytime he's outnumbered, he'll make D3 extra attacks. Pretty great. Malefic Aegis for a +5 save, or 5-up invuln, and he is Traitor Allegiance. That Khitan Gatling cannon, I believe we indicated strength 6, AP4?
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, and rending.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Clarification, movement 13 plus, you get +3.
Well, hot dogs, so you will get not only the +3 for moving that fast, but you'll still get the +1 kick for Heedless Slaughter.
Yep.
And that 5-up invul works at all times, not just a shooting like most knight saves.
Yeah, and that's why you compared him to the Lancer, is because the Lancer does get his in close combat, is that right?
Yeah, so the normal knights get a 4-up on the front and a 5-up on the side, just a shooting. The Lancer gets a 5-up on front and side, both in combat and shooting, and the Khitan gets a 5-up from all angles at all times.
So you can actually get behind knights and negate their invulnerable saves?
Yep.
Unless I'm wrong,
Yeah.
can't this one also be negated by force weapons?
No,
Yeah.
force weapons will cause instant death, but I don't think they override your invulnerable save.
Yeah.
Double check the force property, but I'm
Yeah.
not seeing anything on Corrupted about it.
In Malefic Aegis, the only thing that can change it is having a cyber familiar, so it gets better.
Okay. I thought that there was something in force that said it's prevented those saves.
No, yeah, you can still get your Malefica to be able to empower that invulnerable save that we talked about earlier under Cyberthurgy. The ranged weapon, yeah. Heavy 18, pinning, shellshock 1, so it's not rending, but you can force enemy troops to ground, where then you can kind of run them over from there. And then the melee weapon is Strength 10, AP 2, Brutal 3 with Shred. So you will successfully instant death brutal, or not brutal, battle hardened 1 or tough 5 units. This shouldn't ever be against Galvorbeck, but that's an option. And anytime that your friends like to bring Huskarls or Deliverers, this will instant death those units. Very strong. Of course, he is a knight, so there are some caveats that apply there. If you have not played as or against knights this edition, they can no longer be locked into close combat. And that can mean that enemies can just have some melta-guns that don't die to you, and then they step back and open fire as soon as combat ends, unless you have other things to tie them up. The way
But it
that
also means you get stomps at initiative 1, being a knight. So there's a bunch of rules that knights get. I think it's on page 217 of the main book. They get 2 extra pages of rules on top of just being a super heavy. They explode different, they wreck different, a bunch of other stuff. That's a little different than most of the other super heavies.
Yep, very true, very true. But I guess more of why I highlight this is that some people have come to the realization or feel like it's necessary to have armigers pin enemies into close combat so that knights don't just get enemies who walk away 1 inch and then open fire. Something like the Blood Slaughterers that we talk about later can definitely serve in that same sort of armiger capacity. Next up, we've got the Greater Brass Scorpion. This is a 20-point upcharge over the Khitan. Both are Lord of War units. He's only movement 10 native, which is enough for... Is that fast enough for a +2 on the charge, or is he still just a +1?
I think it's a +2. Let me check.
Yeah, regardless, he'll have Heedless Slaughter for another bonus on top of that. He is
+1.
Weapons 5, Ballistics 4. Okay, so he's only a +1. Net +2 after Heedless Slaughter. Still Strength 9 base for those now 4 Hammer of Wrath hits. Does get his side armor value dialed up to a 13. 4 attacks, or I4, 3 attacks. So this guy seems, just on a quick cursory glance, a little more of a shooting platform that can dig itself out of close combat if it has to. He comes with a turret-mounted Scorpion Cannon, a center-line Despoiler Cannon, 2 front-mounted Hellmaws, and 2 Hellcrusher Claws. He's Hammer of Wrath 4, he's still Rampage D3, and he's got that 5-up Malefic Aegis. His weapons, he's got 2 okay, weapon. That there you've got with a 6-inch torque, the claw. So he's useless if he is combat, but he's definitely paying for a lot of guns there. And I think the one that I missed was the Despoiler Cannon, which is a 24-inch Strength 10 AP3 Small Blast with Sunder, Rending 5-up, and Brutal 3. A 3-inch blast is a little disappointing to see, but if you're able to get enemies like funneled through a choke point, or otherwise, let's say enemies try to charge your position, and then because you're a knight, you can just walk away from combat. Turning that Hellmaw cannon the despoiler cannon, to say nothing of the Hellmaw cannon, and the Scorpion cannon, just really trying to turn those on the guys who were hoping to drag you down. That can get very, very brutal in a hurry.
I like it. I personally like it more than the Kaitan, but that's because it's a much better model, in my opinion.
I think that's a reasonable take. The Brass Scorpion definitely has some unique character that, oddly enough, given the way 40K models have gone, the Brass Scorpion feels more heresy than the Kaitan does.
It does.
We've also got the Blood Slaughterers, 110 points, movement 9, weapons 5, ballistics 3, strength tough 6, 5 wounds, I3, 4 attacks, lead 9, 3 up save. So these are the ones that we said are a bit like a more close combat focused javelin. Because they come with 2 slaughter blades. If you replace one of those with an Impaler Harpoon, which is free, you will lose an attack. And I3 is unfortunate, but they do have move through cover, meaning that if they charge somebody who's in ruins or behind a trench line, they're not going to get slowed down to I1. And it does still mean that if you give them the kick through the Cyberthurgy to put them up to weapon 6, you will get I4 behind it. So you're at least killing tactical Marines as fast as what they're killing you.
And if you hit them with that Impaler cannon and you cause a wound, sorry, if you hit them, period, you get to reroll failed charges.
Yeah, so between move 9 for a +1 charge, Heedless Slaughter for another +1 charge, and then the chance to re-roll that, suddenly you move from I should make a 7-inch charge to I should reliably make a 4 to 5-inch charge, or I should only need a 4 or 5 on the dice, and I have a really good shot at exceeding that in order to make those 8-inch charges that Heedless Slaughter requires. We've also got Furious Charge. Go ahead.
And if you cause a wound with the Impaler cannon, you reduce your opponent to initiative 3.
Yep, really pushing that Cyberthurgy strategy of dropping the opponent's initiative down a point and boosting yours up so that you can go pick unfair fights with... I know Blood Angels have a disproportionately high amount of AP3 at initiative, and getting the chance to kind of blunt some of that can be really, really good. You also have Hit and Run, but your Malefic Aegis is only a 6 up. Again, the trade-off being that relative to javelins, you actually have an invulnerable save that will protect you in close combat. I think if you compare these guys to Contemptors, you might be a little underwhelmed, but ultimately I don't think that 2 Blood Slaughterers, which is slightly more than what 1 well-equipped Contemptor is going to shake out to be, I really don't think that's a bad purchase.
No, nor do I. I'm absolutely looking at buying about 3 or 4 of them. Both for my World Eaters and potentially for my Sons of Horus. I'm not really 100% certain on that yet.
Looking at some other legions that I've been looking at for the heretics, the fast attacks selection is wanting in my opinion. There's sabers, which I love. There's javelins, which I love. But you see sabers and javelins everywhere.
Yep,
I want something different, and this gives me something different that I think it's pointed right and it has the right rules.
Yep, I like where it's sitting right now. It's competing with a lot of stuff that a lot of people constantly throw on the table. I think it's going to be a nice set of things that you don't normally see. Mm-hmm. Nice variation. I like that it's primarily trader only. Mm-hmm. And I'm good with this. I think this is going to be cool to see these on the table. Because, hey, more variety and more heresy. So I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I'm getting at least 2 for the World Leaders, and I'm likely to get 2 more for the Sons of Horus. Like I said.
See, I'm getting 3, but the paint scheme is going to match the Brass Scorpion with that red thing, so they're going to be traders galore.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, I think that paint job, like, that is a classic GW paint style. That candy red with the brass.
Yep.
Like I looking at a lot of Brass Scorpions over the last little bit, and making sure I'm dialing into what I want to do. I think them and the Blood Slaughters with that paint scheme is this chef's kiss. That's why
I agree.
That's why I did all my knights that way. Like all my knights are that candy apple red with the brass edging.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of it. I've been a fan of that scheme for a while. I'm just absolutely cool with this. I love the fact that we got these. It really just kind of hits me right in the
feel goods.
Yeah, right in the feel goods.
I hate it when you get hit right in the feel goods.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you cry a little bit.
I'm happy with it, so I'm good with it.
And then our last selection is the Decimator. Decimator's clocking in at 265 points before upgrades. He can swap either of his claws for a Butcher Cannon at 10 points or Soul Burner Petard at 15 points. Move 7, Weapons 5, Ballistics 4, Strength 8, Tough 7, 7 Wounds, I4, 5 Attacks, Lead 8, 2 Up Save. He's got Hammer of Wrath 2, Furious Charge 2, he's got a 5 Up Malefic Aegis, and he's still got Move Through Cover. There is a small asterisk on this model because he is heavy, which does complicate, for my money, his ability to get across the table and get engaged in the game. His melee weapons are Strength User, Melee, Brutal 3, so those will go all the way up to Strength 10 on the charge because of that Furious Charge 2. As far as his other options, he can take a Butcher Cannon, 48-inch range, Strength 7, AP 4, Heavy 3, Rending 6, Twin Linked. I wish that was one more shot, but that's not the worst. And then the Soul Burner is a 24-inch, Strength 6, AP 4, Small Blast with Breaching, 5 Up, and Fleshbane. For those of you who are possibly somehow unawares, Small Blasts, I think, are generally a trap weapon. Unless you can successfully force your opponent to funnel through a choke point, or can, like, mop them up after a really bad sweeping advance roll. When your unit cohesion is a minimum 2 inches, and the blast is 3 inches in diameter and must be centered over someone else's base, without creeping fire or something else to bail it out, you will generate typically 1 hit.
So unless your name is Joe and you're firing grenades at people who are bunched up.
Well, you know, that's an exception, but it's still the case that, like, they're asking more points for the Soul Burner for a weapon that has half the range of the Butcher Cannon and will typically deal about a third of the damage. A third to half the damage, I should say, of what the Butcher Cannon's going to be able to put out.
You're not wrong on that. Between the two, I think the Butcher Cannon is the better choice. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, you will drop to 4 attacks for giving up one of your melee weapons for that, but it's definitely a way to at least give you something to do in the shooting phase on your way in, and I don't feel like 10 points is wholly unreasonable for that upgrade. Given that I kind of advocate for, dare I say, like, using every part of a buffalo, if your unit doesn't plan to run in the shooting phase, or give up their shooting by running, I should say, giving it at least something to do in that shooting phase is not the worst option you can make.
Yeah, even if you do choose to run, I just personally prefer having the gun as an option just so in case you don't need to run or running's not going to help you at all, you at least have something to do with the actual model. Um, if they're halfway across the table and there's no chance of you getting there for that assault, at least you can actually do something and maybe do something to them. Who knows?
And that butcher cannon also has pretty decent range on it too. So
Yeah, I mean it's got 48. Not the best, but it's far from the worst. It's an autocannon.
right. I mean, it's like mid range. It's a decent mid range weapon. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this whole entire
And I
PDF was
suppose
fantastic.
while we're here, does anybody have any parting thoughts on our demon engines before we get into something that I figure is appropriate enough to discuss adjacent to them, the Legion Bravian?
I think the PDF was a win. I think if we could get one of these once a quarter, a lot of my belly aching would be probably put to bed. It was well done. It created a use for models that probably Heresy players probably had sitting on the shelves, because we tend to be a overall an older demographic that's been in the game for probably a little bit longer, at least from what I've seen.
We're hoarders. You can just say it. We're hoarders.
Did
We're
Dan-
model hoarders.
Dan snuck in here.
Dan
Yeah.
stuck in.
What up,
Yeah,
Gramps?
stuck in.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, not much, dude.
But
Um,
I'm happy. I'm tickled pink. I'm like a pig
I
in
think
poop.
I think something that needs to also be mentioned about this PDF also is we got another legendary Zone Metalis mission. And it's actually kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, you want to give us a crash course on it?
Oh, sure. Sure. Real quick. For setup and everything, it's an EM, obviously. In the mission, one player is a defender, being the traitor forces attempts to repel the assault on the command bunker. The other is the attacker, obviously the loyalist, trying to come in and slay the commanders for the traitors. Two objectives, and the status of the attacker's warlord is the victory conditions. It uses an objective zone and a single blast door objective. The objective zone, the defender's deployment zone is also the objective zone. At the end of each turn, both players calculate the total number of wounds within the objective zone that are there. This is the current total wounds, not the starting number of wounds total. The player with a higher total controls the objective zone. The player who controls the objective zone at the end of each player turn scores 2 victory points during turn 1 and turn 2, D3 plus 1 during turn 3 and turn 4, and D3 plus 3 during turn 5 onwards. The blast door is a piece of terrain. It is treated as a building, no fire points or battlements, no transport capacity, a single armor value of 12, one facing. It has 8 hull points. However, when a penetrating hit is inflicted, it loses D3. No roll is made on the building damage table. If it's reduced to 0, it does not get blown up or anything. It doesn't count as total collapse either. It just gets removed. At the end of the game, if it has been removed, the attacker scores 5. Otherwise, the defender scores 5. And Warlord. If at the end of the battle, the attacker's Warlord has been removed as a casualty for any reason, the defender scores 2 victory points. If the attacker's Warlord is still on the field, the attacker scores 1. At the end of the game, if the attacker has a higher total victory point, then they have broken through the command center's defenses, the attacker secure victory. If the defender has higher points, they get victory. No secondaries, no other objectives other than stuff given by your actual Rite of War or your Warlord traits. It's fairly simple. Get in there and hold that zone. Uses the standard ZM map. Network of tunnels and doors placed within 24 inches of the attacker's table edge to represent the tunnel leading up to the command center, and only barricades and debris should be set up for the rest of it all. And it's set for having a 2,500 point game for it. And one thing about for the defenders can include units with corrupted engine unit subtype within their primary detachment as if they're part of the same faction as the primary detachment, so long as no unit with corrupted engine is selected as a compulsory choice. Models with Dreadnought and Corrupted Engine do not count towards the maximum number of allowed models with the Dreadnought unit type as part of Behemoths of Destruction. It's interesting. And it does have one special rule. At the start of the first turn, before anything is moved, the attacker can select 3 doors that are locked. That part doesn't make sense to me. I think they should actually have that done for the defender, but that's that.
As an attacker, if I come around a corner and there's a brass scorpion, I'm going to need brown armor.
I mean, yeah, I would think so. And attackers get first turn. It's 5 turns base. No other mission or no other turns unless you get a seize or unless you get possible 6 turns somehow. But it's 5 base, and there you go. It's interesting. It's slightly different than a regular ZM. I kind of dig it, just because of it's being different than a regular missions. So, and since it's included in the PDF, I figured we should mention it.
I mean, it's very different at 2,500 points, right? We're used to playing 1,000, 1,500 point ZM games. You know, small points, small, almost skirmish size, and you know, it's a very interesting to bump it up to 2,500 and still running a ZM. Interesting in a cool way. I think I'd love to try it out and play it at some point.
I'm a fan of running larger size forces in a ZM game. It's just not the same thing you normally see. I like that.
You'd be taking models off in like anvils, right?
I mean, that was also I think the mission also has some things in it that help speed that up. If you notice, what Duncan said was that basically the only terrain that's going to be on there is going to be the objective, some corridors, and very, very little scatter terrain. So some of the things that you're going to see in other ZM games are going to slow you down for having those big, or those smaller forces are going to be, you know, boxes and detritus and all the other kind of random crap that's all over ZM tables. So that's not going to be there in this mission. This is the last push. It's also an interesting way of scoring. I could see Lucas or Michael or someone else using this in like an off table at an event where, like, okay, well, we need to figure out who controls this big objective. We'll just do it by number of wounds in the room, and then everybody figures that out, and then that player will take a leadership test or something to fire the gun on the main table or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think you guys already hit my big observation that moving this to 2,500 was significant. That's kind of also circling some of our conversation where it's like if 3,000 points is what they consider game size for full table games, does that mean that's like the minimum you should be rolling up to the table at, or is that the standard game size? And I'm very excited to see a number of play groups really starting to experiment with or otherwise push 3,500.
I think I said a while back that I think 3,500 is likely to be the sweet spot for most Heresy games. And I am putting a caveat on that. I really do think that the 4-turn base with 5 being optional that we've actually seen and discussed lately from the Cathonia book, I think that's actually the best way to do it right now. Your mileage may vary, but it seems to be more active, if that makes it sense somehow.
Let's bring
I think
all
that's
the choice.
reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen some pushback with the 4-turn games at Theurix, because some people didn't know that it was coming, but you know, maybe advance warning. That way you're not taking the big assault blob that's got an outflank or deep strike or whatever. It does lend a little bit more to Alpha Strike, you know, shooting armies, so the 10 last cannon unit gets a little bit better, but I mean, it's already really good to begin with.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the 10 last cannon unit.
Oh,
Yeah, as a guy that's building the Dawn of Revelation list where you aren't coming in right away, that one's, I wonder how much it's going to hurt when I get that list ready to play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, regrettably, a lot. It will hurt a lot.
There is one thing I will say about this mission, and it's something that I kind of think is important. You can't really deep strike in this. You can't really outflank. You can't really deep strike. You gonna be stuck there. So even if you are using it and just kind of fiddling with it, your the Dawn of Revelation, like Dan's building, you can't really use that for this mission. And people who use raiders. I didn't think so. This battle does not use reinforcement points.
Oh, okay then.
So it plays as a full game, but just an indoor full game.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's super weird. Huh. Regardless, I think, does that move us along to the Bravian?
Bravian.
Yeah, so the Praevian gains the Master of Automata special rule and Legiones Cybernetica special rule. Legiones Cybernetica, an army that includes a model with this special rule, may take a single Castellax Maniple or single Vorax Maniple as part of the same Force-Org choice. Any models in a Castellax or Vorax Maniple included in an army due to this special rule gain Legions Astartes. So keep in mind that if you took a Demon Engine, it's going to supplant your Cybernetica choice. You're allowed to do so. You won't be able to join to it or do anything like that, but you are allowed to do so. And then more gear options, Praevians may select a Cortex controller for free, and may select a Cyber Familiar, which is +1 initiative, or I'm sorry, not +1 initiative, +1 invulnerable save at 15 points. A Praevian may not select a combat bike, a jet bike, or a jump pack. So there have definitely been a number of folks who have been like, oh, take your Praevian and put him in Cataphractii armor, and now you've got a guy who's just going to be super obnoxious to try to dislodge, who's probably carrying around a Thunderhammer.
Mine's planning on it. Two up, three up, smack.
And Master of Automata, you may join Automata units, is basically all that it says. And while attached, you may not make reactions, you become fearless, and the Automata cannot fall prey to program behavior while you are attached. No surprise, you should have a Cortex controller on you anyway.
Yep, you don't really need the Cortex controller if you have the Demon Engines, because you're not attached to them, but it's what it is.
Yeah, and thankfully it's a free upgrade by the time you pay for it. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. My big concern... My big thing with these guys, Praevians, is, honestly, if you're trying to run a fast army, like I've been fiddling with for a War Leaders army on this, including these Demon Engines, you don't really have a way to put him in anything to get close to the line.
Yeah, I just looked that up. So since he can't take mobility options, and he is limited to Artificer armor only, no Terminators. Not that Terminator necessarily makes you quicker now, but yeah, I'm looking right at the Cataphractii right here.
Oh, no.
Because you made a Cataphractii, didn't you?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh well. I guess I'll just call him some other cataphractii model. Yeah. Oh well.
But yeah, so there's the Praevian I think definitely rises in value more if you play what is it, Brethren of Iron? That's the Rite of War that lets you take a lot of Cybernetica choices.
Yep.
Yeah, give me just a moment. I'm digging that right up right now. Brethren of Iron. Castellax may be taken as non-compulsory troops. Vorax may be taken as non-compulsory fast. And Thaumatar may be taken as non-compulsory elites. In addition, a single Thanatar may be taken as a non-compulsory heavy support. Tech Marines may take Cortex controllers at 20 points. A detachment may not have more things with automata than without. At least one model with a Cortex controller must be in the detachment for every 3 with the automata unit type. Nobody can take Paragon of Metal, and a Forge Lord must be taken as your compulsory HQ choice. So does the Forge Lord then enable you to take Thalax?
I believe so. Give me a moment.
Yes, he does. I just got there. Forge Lord gains Battlesmith 4+, Master of Automata, and Legiones Thalaxes. An army with 1 or more models with this special rule may take up to 3 Thalax cohort as non-compulsory elites. Keep in mind they will retain the line subtype from the Mechanicum book when you take them. And the Forge Lord is the one who is allowed to be in Terminator armor. And he can still take a Cortex controller and or Cyber Familiar, and he also gains a Machinator array at no additional points cost, so he can make a bunch of Power Axe attacks.
Yep. Yeah, he can. He doesn't have access to the Castellax though, so oh well. I guess I'll have to get some Thalax as well. Oh yeah. No, this hurts me so much.
If you really wanted to lean into it, you could either do it as a full like allied detachment where you take a couple Thalaxes as line choices, or I think you can take a Magos and take the Rite of Cybernetica on him, and that would give your Castellax line. Kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other as far as how your preference falls with regard to either taking Castellax or taking Thalax. Thalax, of course, are like the poster child for mobility because they still get the jump, shoot, jump like they used to have. You won't be able to jump away and like avoid getting returned fire, but overall, that's still hardly the worst drawback.
No, I mean, yeah, not a bad thing. You get lightning guns, which are unfortunately nasty still.
Lightning guns arguably got better because now you can choose that 3-shot mode with Shred on them if you've really ended up against like Militia or Solar Ox and have to do some major crowd control.
Yep. Like I said, it's not a bad choice, and it's something you don't see a lot. So, oh well. I guess I'll use this Terminator for that. And hey, he'll still be a 2-up, 3-up with a Thunderhammer. What's not to like?
Yep, sure does. Otherwise, do we have anything else to talk about this show?
Nope.
With no further plans, I will go ahead and tease episode 54. Right now, I think we are hopefully, bar any major disruptions in content flow, we're going to be looking at trying to get a guest or two on and continue our Legion series and get into the Space Wolves. Here's hoping that that's going to be a reality, but we obviously can't swear to that right away. If that changes, this may end up clipped out or otherwise appended before publication. But with all that said, thank you so much for joining us, listeners. I've been Jacob, and on this giveaway episode, I've been joined by...
And for a little bit.
Duncan.
Jack?
Jamie.
John.
And we're glad to have had you with us. Once again, a tremendous thank you to our sponsors with Elric's Hobbies and giveaway giver, Flying Phoenix Games. If you are in pursuit of some hobby supplies, you can use the code HERESYABB with Elric's. And past that, stay accountable to your hobby and to your buddies, listeners, and we'll see you on here next time.
Peace
And
out.
since